Welcome to Mental Millennials with your host, Shelby Friesen.
Hey, man.
There we go.
How you doing?
Good, you?
How's my sound? Is it come through?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
I'll move mine a little closer. There we
Yeah,
go.
I'm working with the computer audio.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, man. You doing well, dude? Nice haircut, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's been good. You?
Yeah. It's been a roller coaster, my friend.
A good one or a bad one?
Bad one. Horrible roller coaster. Never want to get on this roller coaster again. Oh, man. I've been hospitalized twice.
Since last time we talked.
When's the last time we talked? It had to have been
Yeah,
last time we talked.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago or no, it was last. Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it's right after that we had to talk that I just I don't know, man. I was going through intensive outpatient therapy and I decided not to go. And then this is what happened. So my eyes were not right. I didn't think my eyes were okay. I was seeing some sort of lights, and I felt it would be best to go to the ER. And so when I went to the ER, they checked out my eyes, but then also they said we're concerned about your mental health, and they're like, we're gonna give you a welfare check, or you're gonna get a welfare check at the hospital. So
what? That's where they just ask you a bunch of questions and stuff, try and make sure you're okay.
No, this is when they put me in an actual hospital.
Oh.
And they try to just help contain, because the problem was too is not the problem, but I knew what they knew, and we all knew what was going on, and that was the fact that I was in Mania, and I don't like it, man. I don't like talking about it. I don't like acknowledging bipolar and its darker sides. I mean, literally on Facebook, if you are friends with me, you can just see the consistent posting of just kind of weirdness and madness and sexual frustration was up there, you know, and yeah, so that, and then LinkedIn, they canceled me. So I was posting, I wasn't posting things appropriate, for LinkedIn. And they're like, goodbye. So, it's like one of the aftermaths, okay, kind of wish I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, you can't really take it back, I guess.
No, and that's a fair point. So, what did I learn from this? I guess I learned I need to take more ownership of my condition, and never really falter in thinking that I'm always okay, or some sense, I always needed to just be aware that, and I thought I was doing a good job for a time. It's just a lot of stressors came up, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, you can just got to do what you can.
Yeah. So I pretty much imploded, and I wish I had a better explanation. Hey, this is um, this is this is bipolar and blah 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 blah. Or I don't want this to be a pity party. You're like, oh, woe is me, man. I got this stupid condition, or I'm blaming people left and right, for certain things. It's just like, all right, how do I take more ownership and check my ego?
Yeah, I think that's really like important though. Not, you're not blaming other people. You're just trying to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and I I just the story goes on. I
Mm-hmm.
guess at the end of the day, like um, did I feel bad about myself? Yeah, like but at the end of the day, um, the funny part is that I actually was gonna take myself to the hospital. I was actually gonna say I need a welfare check. So it's because the like I don't know what comes over me, man, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. It's a different. I feel like it's almost a different entity.
Mm-hmm.
It is as weird as that sounds. Like manic possession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's completely different.
Hey, yeah, and night and day. I mean, I I'm just like, I'm at a point where I'm trying to understand it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to understand it and like conceptualize it, and because here's the other thing too. Like I am a Christian, so like back when I was growing up in that cult, I mentioned, uh, there was a hyper focus of like spiritual entities, and like I studied theology. I've gone through the Bible plenty of times, and still practicing, uh, and it does make aware like the enemy, the devil is out like a roaring lion, like that. There is this type of struggle with your faith and Satan and all that stuff. What I grew up in was kind of extreme, and it's like us versus them, like this kind of like crazy, like everything's under a microscope, your behavior, all that you're doing, it's the devil this, devil that. And that's and from what I understand about Christianity now and then what I grew up in is vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
And like the gospel and Christianity is more freeing than anything, knowing that you have somebody who on behalf owed your debt or paid your debt. So that's a relief. If like if I hadn't somebody pay all my debt for you know uh, wrongs that I did, I'd be forever grateful. And then to have that person call me friend, Jesus, right? I mean, like that. There's more of a place of gratitude than anything. With the cult that I was in, was more fear based, and nothing was never enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so like even for me now, like getting out of the hospital last week and stuff like that, and just kind of re-examining myself and myself and my faith too, is just like it's just really about following Jesus, and nothing you can do now uh is gonna better, the debt's already been paid.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing more than I can do to gain approval from Jesus. um so I'm constantly, but that whole like battle between the devil did this, and all this stuff. I mean, I could look at my condition and just be like, look, this is symptomatic of a fallen world, and it's one of my responsibilities in my health to make sure I'm doing the right thing, and make sure I'm doing the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
and in my health, and but there's greater liberties at this point. So Yeah, yeah, but it's strange. It's strange the 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 religion part of it. Like my religious life prior to uh, coming to faith in 2013. Um, it was just like this all or nothing, like this extreme, and like I was a warrior. I'm like, no, I'm just a human being who has flaws and can extend grace now. And I've been angry a lot lately, and it's okay. Uh, it's okay to be angry, um, just not to hurt others or not to lash it out and just pray about it. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any questions on
um,
that?
not really. I mean, I just, I don't, I guess I just get, I mean, I just like listening to you, to you talk and explain how you're feeling about it. And even like the religion thing, I have no experience with any of that stuff. Like I think I've maybe even been to a church like twice, and I don't even know what kind it was. I've never read the Bible. I've never looked into any of that stuff. So it's interesting for me to just to hear it and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I don't know if I mean I don't know. I don't. It's. I feel like it's no one. I don't think anyone signs up to be a Christian. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, living a Christian life is not easy, and because you're constantly doing a pride check, and you're constantly saying like, oh well, it's not me, it's Christ living me. And then but the things that you like, the virtues that you have is because of Christ, and you grow in these virtues um, because of Christ. And but then you get persecuted, you sign up to be persecuted too, once you start practicing self-control and brotherly affection and love and patience, and you don't lash out and stuff like that. And um, yeah, I look at it, I'm like, I mean, and then I should be counted as a fool to follow Jesus, because I'm believing a man proclaimed to be God died for my mistakes and like missteps, and the marks missed on a law, ancient law, or being born into a world that uh, like I'm not a good person. What are you talking about? This is what, like, the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible says, like, you're not a good person, and you need your mistakes to be atoned. And there's all these prophecies, and then in the New Testament, uh, Jesus fulfills these prophecies and calls me friend, and I should be an enemy towards him. And he resurrected a human being, resurrected from the grave, right? So I mean, that's like, what is that? Like, I should be counted as a fool. Um, yeah, I should be counted as a fool. I mean, because I'm believing a man, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
died.
and is that according to the Old Testament, you mean? Because they like the way they changed it, or just in general?
Oh, just in general. So just like
Mm-hmm.
the New Testament, Jesus, he came to fulfill the prophecies and the law. So I mean, it's it's a story of compassion. It's a story of a redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the Apostle Paul, he says, we should be counted as fools because we do believe a man rose from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's the New Testament, the apostle writings. But the reason why we as Christians have hope is because he conquered death.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all the things that we like are the things that we mess up in, or the mistakes, and the penalty for our actions, because is death. But the gift of life, but Christ is the gift of God. I mean, he is the one who lived the life that I couldn't have lived and died a death that I couldn't die.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's the hope that I have. And I think for me as a Christian, like thinking about my illness, I try so hard to cover it up, man.
Mm-hmm.
As a person, I try so hard to cover it up. Like I don't have an illness, and I do. I do. And I mean, Shelby, I being 29 years old, and I felt like I've lived a life, man, and I've accomplished a lot of things, and um, there's more to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes I just don't want to acknowledge that I have a condition. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people in that position, but it's yeah, it's a really hard thing to have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I when it comes to faith, and it's really, for me, compassion. So the three things that I feel like are starkly different from Christianity than other worldviews is um, forgiveness, reconciliation, and then compassion. And being in compassion, having Jesus forgive me, reconcile me, and then have compassion over me. I think for me, when I think about my condition, I think, why do you love me? Like, and then the question is like, who am I to question God who created me in his own image, to say
Mm-hmm.
why, like, say that you and we come up with this really cool AI and we give it a body, and that AI is autonomous, it can learn, and we want that AI to at least just acknowledge us as creators.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but we want that, the best for that AI, we want that best, and we give it this best body, and we design a world in it, and it doesn't acknowledge us, and it doesn't, or it questions us and our motives, and we're just lovingly like, no, we just love you,
Mm-hmm.
right? As creators, we just love you. And like that's basically what God is like. He's like, what, like, how can you question my love for you when it runs deep, and my patience and mercy and my steadfastness, and he's like, I'm the one who's going to give you the strength, and I'm the one who's going to give you that and endurance. So like, if you and I create this being, and it's we didn't program it to question us. We program it, to live in this world that we created. It would we I like I I would just say, like, that's part of the mending process. Like, as creators, like, no, like I love my creation, and that's what, as analogous, I mean, is like, that's what John 3:16, uh, that was my ringtone. It's Final Fantasy 7 boss fight. But yeah, I mean, so it's analogous to, like, God created me, He created you in the image of Him, and it's like our pride, or even my pride, because I mean, with this bipolar thing, it was like I went to, I was like, man, I just give up. I don't want to do this thing anymore. And to be frank with you, man, like, Wednesday is when I got released from the hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
then Thursday, Friday is, I just went through a deep depression, and I was like, what was that? And like, I pretty much laid in bed Friday, Friday to Saturday, like all day, and and but I'm also like taking courage, and or being encouraged, and I'm like reading the Bible. I'm like, oh, it's not about, like, it's about Jesus and what He's doing, and Him reigning as a person who called me to follow Him. And like, I was reading First, Second Peter, listening to it, and in there, it's just a reminder, like, my purpose, and my purpose is um, to follow Him, and to acknowledge Him as King, and to glorify Him, and to practice these virtues. And it's funny too, because it's just like, these virtues are not things that I do on my own through my flesh. It's, the Bible is very clear about the flesh, and then the spirit, and the spirit of a person. And it's His Spirit that dwells in me to be able to, work out my salvation in fear and trembling, and honoring, and honoring God, but also, like, to know that He's the one who's healing me, and He's the one who's providing for me, and He's the one who's giving me the abilities of walking away from temptation and whatnot. But a lot of my life, Shelby, is, my story is growing up in that religious realm.
Mm-hmm.
And having this kind of like dualistic perspective on it, or not dualistic, but I've been, like, really, it's been waiting on my mind throughout my entire life. And the the encouragement that I have, that because of my faith, is that He takes the I mean, it literally says in the Bible, He takes the weakest of those, like, and makes them strong. And he goes towards the lepers, the people who have skin diseases, and the people who are blind, or harlots, and tax collectors, and who are hated, and He just loves them. And for me, I'm like, I'm loved. Like, that's my takeaway, is that I'm loved, and because of that love, and through His Spirit, I'm able to, serve Him, serve Christ, and that's the reason. But I had a heart, like, back in 2012. I was like, I don't know if I believe Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in it, and I definitely felt like I did well in that cult that I grew up in. And people are like, you're on fire. But, I felt like I wasn't good enough, and I had an addiction to pornography too. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when I was younger, I got exposed, and it's been like the porn is basically something like, it's such an escape for me, and it's such a pacifier. It's been with me since I was a kid, and it's a, a thing that I've struggled to have self-control with, um, and it's a drug,
Mm-hmm.
both secular and people who are in religion say like it's not a good coping mechanism. It's not healthy. Jordan Peterson talks about that. Then there's some other Jordan Peterson. He's a psychologist who uh, now is a speaker, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a college professor, and he talks about porn, and like there's a whole movement, and people are like, no, it's not good for you, and this is what happens. And so like my story really, it's about religion and porn. I mean, like the and what I like that I've done is I've exposed it, on Facebook when I went through this manic episode. I was posting on there like, I will never watch porn again, or I will not watch porn, and stuff like that. And I guess what I want to do is expose it,
Mm-hmm.
like this is it, and I hate it. It's objectifying to women. I'm practicing not looking at it, and it's, I think, it takes time of self,
Mm-hmm.
but it's self control. I mean, and that's what I'm learning right now, is like, especially being Christian. And I'm not like I'm still learning, Shelby, as a Christian, like I'm I I don't want you to think that like, well, you should know better. I'm like, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying like to I'm actually like taking serious my faith, um and stuff like that, and but also like exposing it, and like just taking the shame out of it. Like I don't want to be shame and guilty. I don't want to practice this stuff. And like, you have me here on this podcast, pornography, and talking about it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, where every time they look, or every time they practice, it's like this weird, you don't this weird void. I mean, just, you don't feel anything,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't feel anything. You're numb. You get into a depression, like, and I mean, for me, I think it's, hindered me a lot, to have the confidence to meet a girl and take her out on a date and all stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was, in the cult, it was like, sex is bad, but and porn is bad, but if you look at porn, at least you're not having sex with like 20 different women. I'm like, what? Can't. That was my interpretation, like as a teenager, because I definitely told my parents when I was a kid, and I definitely told people in the church I grew up in, and people are like, "Nah, you're a great kid. Like, thank you for that's sign of maturity." I'm like, I'm dying over here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying. So, um, yeah, yeah. So,
So they actually said it was a good thing because then you weren't actually sleeping with women.
that was my interpretation.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, totally. They would, if they ever stumble upon this podcast, and be like, "Holy crap! Like, you can't be. What are you?" They would be like, "No, that's not what we meant," or anything like that. No, I'm just, no,
That's just how you took it.
man, I just needed help. I
Mm-hmm.
was crying out for help when I was a kid, and I felt like I grew up way too fast, and I, and this goes back to neglect and childhood trauma, and realizing like the reason why I have what I have as far as like bipolar, and then with OCD and like or just these dysfunctions of the brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to childhood, just like my parents, you know, and I love my parents, and I want to make a disclaimer. They did as best as they could have.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I came up with a couple years ago when I was trying to like distill my mom and dad's parenting uh, is how could they have known better?
Mm-hmm.
Shelby, your parents, I'm sure, made a lot of mistakes. My
Yeah.
parents, sure as hell, made a lot of mistakes. And the my parents, they raised 6 kids in 10 years. They had 6 kids in 10 years, and they're just, how could they have known better to
Mm-hmm.
raise? They didn't have the resources, or didn't have the other insights that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't have known better. And like I had to take them. I had to take a lot of people off the chopping block. Like who was it to blame and stuff like that. Even this guy Alfred, who I strongly disliked, and for a while I hated him.
Mm-hmm.
I I really did. I didn't like him because of and Alfred's the pastor of the group that we grew up in, and just very high standards, and I listened to him tooth and nail. Like I just listened to him like it was law,
Mm-hmm.
and um, is he a great guy? I mean, in some respect, he has greatness in him. I mean, you gotta look at this. It is impressive, right? Uh, to look at this person who has uh, deemed himself a leader amongst people. Um, he is leading people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that is a very hard like that's hard to do. To have people come to you for advice, or come to you as if like you can help them out and stuff like that, and like it's a tremendous responsibility. So he has greatness there, and I'm not going to detract that. I mean, and people change too. I haven't talked to this guy in years,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going, and one of my issues and what I've done is I projected. So I take past experiences and I project them on present experiences when
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm not actually like I'm not there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I became more aware of, is that projection. So who knows where this guy is? I hope, you know, I hope that he is more soft. I hope that he is not running a cult. Like I hope that he, what I'm saying, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to wish ill will towards him and stuff like that. And it's kind of scary, some of the things that I've researched about cults, and then some of the things that and the reason why I call it a cult too is because the associations that we had with affiliations, with groups that, or affiliated with groups that actually had gone down the list of check, check, check. This is what a cult should be, and this is what or what a cult ought to be, and stuff like that. And it just, I'm looking at like the peripheral, like that connection. Like, okay, so if we're connected here, then this is not, and this here is not healthy. So then maybe this is not, going back to the root, or going
Mm-hmm.
back to the center. Maybe that's not healthy either.
So
So
you guys were connected to other groups that were cults.
yeah, so it's called Acquire the Fire. They're no longer an organization, but they had a ministry called Honor Academy, and in the Honor Academy, basically, the idea would be getting ready for the war, the cultural war. And so the culture war, I mean, like I could send you a video sometime
Mm-hmm.
if you're interested. But there's a NBC News Nightline basically it did like a coverage on the Honor Academy, what it was, and talk about people who uh, were in it and how like it, it, it people is PTSD. Like a lot of people develop PTSD just by um, the treatment, and because basically it was like a boot camp,
Mm.
um, and this boot camp would prepare you for the mission field and like for the culture, and it wasn't Christian. It
Mm-hmm.
was now it had the Christian title, but it wasn't Christian, and so um, yeah, our church was affiliated with that, and I guess for me, I think I think Shelby, like when you and I are in something, our guard is all, like
Mm-hmm.
our guard is down. If if like you and I like went somewhere and then we checked the boxes of like comfortability and confidence and uh, this ease of sociability, uh, then it would be hard for us to recognize maybe some things that we should,
Mm-hmm.
because we're lacking in something. And I honestly think that um, when my mom and dad sent us off to these events, it was like, well, the church is endorsing it, and I like the people that I go to church with, so I don't think this is a problem at all. And then you
Mm-hmm.
look at back and you're like, battle cry for what? And like they would do these mass campaigns, like hyping teenagers up. I mean, when you look at the business model, it's pretty amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
because it's you're creating a market of consumers that can buy your product, your books, and your turn you on to CDs and different like Christian artists and whatnot. I mean, it's definitely a clever business model. But this is what happens when you if you're not careful, um, you know, variants of Christianity can pop off, and it can seem like the real deal based on emotions, um, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like use the like I don't they use kind of like the overlying concept, but then they sneak a bunch of shit in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and when you're in it, like my dad, I mean, he's a great guy. He's not. I mean, he's perceptive, but I mean, what if he's got the kids away for the weekend in a quiet house, I think any parent would sign up.
At least once in a while.
Yeah, right. Um, and then I mean, even too, like put myself in that situation. Like I'm so mentally worn down. Like when you sometimes you just don't want to think,
Mm-hmm.
and you just want to coast. Um, so um, yeah, so that's but that story, the story that I told last time, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, through my I've just I think I because I had the book here, and I was going through my childhood, and kind of looking at like what my childhood was like, and like I've always disassociated.
Mm-hmm.
right? So I mean, like, when I read to you uh my, and I don't know what this is, you know, like, but I'm not interested in meeting up with them. It was fun growing up with them, but I'm not interested in meeting up with them. Like, these are friends, people who I went to school with when I was a kid, and you know, at 17, I was saying when I was doing this project, you know, I don't want to meet up with. I guess I always felt alone, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt like I was always transitioning and people don't really know me. And like, even now, like, my internal image would be like me with, you know, two more heads and just kind of like a freak, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the internal, but it's this, you know, strong insecurity and stuff like that. And um the, you know, why, you know, the question would be like, why does God love me? And then it's like, why do people love me?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, I think the real question is, I don't think it should be a why, man. You know, like, I don't think I should question the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? You know,
Mm-hmm.
why, or why wouldn't God love me, or why wouldn't my friends love me, or people love me?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that's. I honestly think that's just stemming from my childhood, because you know, like, I just had to be perfect. I had to be good enough, be good enough, be good enough, and I
Yeah,
just want to.
I
Yeah,
think that does play a really big part in it. The whole like, yeah, just never feeling good enough. I mean, you never, I mean, it's exactly that. You never feel good enough, and you experience that for so long that it's hard to shake that off.
yeah, and you know, the thing is like, I want to, you know, I like, what I want to do is I want to feel enough. I just,
You want to
like,
feel
not,
in love?
no, enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to feel enough. Like, not good enough. No, you know, I just want enough. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want, you know, I don't want to exceed. I just want to be able to perform my job duties well. I want to perform my, to be responsible, um, and just be kind to people. And like, this is the going back to Christianity is, love your neighbor as yourself, and love your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So these are the two commands that Christians ought to be living on,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're commanded. Is, and when we do that, but that's it. I mean, that's the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you and I, to be kind to one another, to love you, um, to uh, you know, having a listening ear. I mean, like, but that's anything like what I grew up in is not, was not Christian, because it was this ongoing, like, I had to be more, I had to be more, I had to be more for approval, more approval, more approval, and yeah,
Mm-hmm. It was just never ending.
never ending. I mean, it's psychologically. I mean, I'm at a point where um, I have a, you know, I've just, I want people's approval,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's funny because that approval, I just, but yeah, it's not good enough, man. Like it's this constant, um,
I feel like even like, do you think if you had people's approval, it would fix it?
no, because the problem is I've gotten people's approval within work, and I accomplished things at work, and then outside of work, and this, it's almost like this validation. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want someone to validate me, but it's never good enough for the validation, or,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, that's the thing about Christianity that I'm kind of like smacked in the face with, is that you are valid. Everything has been justified fully because of someone on your behalf dying in your place. And you're forgiven. So there's nothing to work. I mean, but to there, James says it, don't be hearers of the word, but doers. I mean, act on what you believe, but at the same time, like, we're not doing it so God has more favor on my life. And I that's the most convicting thing that I've kind of dealt with in the last few days. Is just like, all right, I want to, and it says work uh, unto God, not unto men, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I'm talking to you, it's just kind of like this, it's like we're ever so present of the presence of God. And my hope one day, Shelby, is you become a Christian. Um, and, and I mean, there is a significant action when we disobey God and we don't accept Christ, and that's hell, and that's the wrath. And um, I wish I could do better justice explaining things right now,
Mm-hmm.
but my scope right now is just kind of coming out of um, this this manic depressive time,
Mm-hmm.
and and the Bible is validating in the sense of, like, we do have the flesh that war against us, and we do have temptations, and this is why prayer is important, and this is why being around other Christians are important, to encourage one another. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I'm just understanding the gospel,
Mm-hmm.
the good news of Christ, and I I guess I just tried so hard to to show people that I'm not crazy, like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's tiring because I compared myself to other people, and when you're comparing, I don't know, have you done that where you compare yourself to other people? And
Oh yeah. Yeah, I used to do that a lot, and it's like super draining, and it's super hard on yourself. But I mean, you're never, yeah, everybody's so different. You're never going to be that person. Or I would compare like, you don't even know how that other person feels, right? Like, I would compare myself to people who had done more, they're more successful, or they have more money, or whatever it was. And then, sometimes I wouldn't even really know the people that well, and then I would get to know them and realize that, like, they're really struggling or whatever is going on. And, like, you just start to realize that everybody's human and everybody's dealing with things. No one's necessarily like,
everybody,
yeah.
it's everybody's in the same boat, and especially with this coronavirus, um, everybody's suffering. And like, I'm thankful and fortunate to have a position where I'm picking people up and at least, having some sort of human contact. There's some
Mm-hmm.
people, man, who literally have not been out of their house, um, because of the quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
And I I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. And I don't, but it's so funny too, because people are like, well, Barnaby, he probably's have his life together. And someone's comparing themselves to me. I'm like, no, no, you know what? You want to see it? All right, here it is, like,
Well, people do the same thing to me and all of people who go, oh man, like it's crazy how you just know exactly what you want to do and you have your whole life sorted out. And I don't at all. Like I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just, I just do whatever and try new shit all the time. And like, I don't at all feel like I know what I'm doing or have an idea of what I'm going to do the rest of my life or any of this sort of thing. It's just, I don't know if anybody does.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the things that when I was in my early 20s or 20, like 23, I was 23, 24 years old. I read a book called The Black Swan: A Case for the Highly Improbable, and I think I got it's The Black Swan, but
Mm-hmm.
and it's an economist who basically is saying how life is assortment of unknown, and like you and I can't predict what life would be like. So like this morning, I give you a perfect example. I was about to like go crazy, and I felt overwhelmed with anxieties and stuff like that. I go to my car, I drive for Lyft, and Lyft, there's a message saying, you no longer can drive. And I was like, I no longer could drive. What are you talking about? Like, what is this? And so I sent a message to support, but then I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, my one stream of income just evaporated. Like that is it, like I can't get any more money. And man, like I didn't know what to do. I mean, I definitely prayed. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? And then I went back in my car and tried the app again, and it went where I could drive and I could pick up people. But man, I was so scared because I'm in a situation where I'm looking for a new place and I gotta move out by the end of the month, and I'm like, I can't have this right now. I can't have this. So, but that would be an example of the Black Swan, because I would say, oh, I'm gonna go with my car and go to work today, and then in reality, something unexpected happened. So it's the comparison and like that it could kill you, man. You can almost lose yourself too.
Yeah.
Lose yourself in the conspiracy or comparison game. Because even like Steve Jobs, there's a video I watched years ago, and he was on his deathbed, and they're doing this montage, and he's just like, it wasn't worth it. This is Steve Jobs, who made, he revolutionized the phone industry, and he regretted not spending more time with his kids and not, being more compassionate. He wished he was more compassionate, and it makes me wonder, like, if I had done these things, I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think about that stuff a lot too, where like I've spent a lot of my years working really hard and spending a lot, like there was a time when I was working 14 hours a day every single day for like a year and longer, trying to launch this business because I thought it'd make me feel so good and it'd be so cool and all these things. And then like now sort of realizing like I don't know, like I meet people who have huge businesses and they don't really care, or they want to get out of them, or it's too much work, or I think a lot of people are going back to that like more freedom era, like working less and spending more time and making like it seems like connection is what really matters, like connection to real other people and building those.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's I want to do that. I want to I want to do that. It's so bad, man. And I just want to share with the world what I have, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe get better in my craft and stuff like that. I think this too, man, just like, this podcast we're doing, it's definitely not, I don't think I think that I wish I could give you more.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
you don't have to give me more.
It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough of this podcast, and I should be telling the story, and but then there's this real life of, and I mean, like having bipolar, man, it's so difficult. It really is, and I think that's what um I'm coming to conclusion is. It's like, man, I had this um realness of this condition, um and it's I don't want it to be defining,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like, oh, Barnaby the bipolar man,
Yeah.
it, it's Barnaby who is conflicted and is a human being and has had a life uh so far, and uh, it's yeah, it's that weird self-awareness, like, am I appropriate enough, or am I doing this enough, or am I real enough, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point in my life, man, I just like, I'm just ready to, I want to be, I don't know, like, I just want to help people, and
Mm-hmm.
um readjust my course when I need to, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But dude, like, mental millennials, right? Like, this is the whole point of your podcast, is to talk about bipolar and stuff like that, and talk about the struggle. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I've had tremendous success, and um I think for me, I wish I just could accept it, accept the success, like, oh yeah, like, or understand the the reality of what is successful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it? What is success? I mean, is it the amount of salary you get? Is it job title and job promotion? And you know, that's the one thing I like about work, is I always try to please the boss.
Mm-hmm. You like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, success, I don't know. That's something I've been thinking about a lot too, and I don't really know what it means. I mean, I think a lot of people think it means the salary and the, like you're saying, the promotions or the things that you have, your house and whatever else. But um, I don't know. I mean, I think lately it's been more like freedom probably for me, like just to do whatever kind of. Um, I don't know. I think it always changes too. Success might be one thing at some point and could be totally different even the next day.
yeah, yeah,
It'll probably always evolve.
yeah, and as it should, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a fair. Um, I mean, I know for me, man, like, just writing out like a story of, or like where do I want to be in the next like 5 years and stuff like that, and where do I want to be in the next 5 years, what kind of goals do I want, what kind of person do I want to be. And I think this is something that I as a kid like would map things out and just be like, all right, here are my goals, here are my things, like I could do it, you know, blah blah blah. And then, you know, now it's just like I'm more almost like halted or at a stalemate, but I want to get back to that, man. Because every time I set goals for myself, or there's this purpose or vision, I always have a better direction. I have a peace of mind to myself. So I think I'm gonna do this after I get off the call. Is, you know, just kind of write that down, like my vision, what kind of man do I want to be, and because, you know, I hate to say it, man, I desperately want to get married. Like I want to have like I you know, desperately meaning like, you know, I'm like, you know, I want that partner and I want that companionship, and you know, I want to, you know, be in love and stuff like that, and be, I want this accountability, you know, and like not desperate enough that I'm like going on a Russian website, you know.
That's good.
But, you know, enough where I'm like like today, like I you know, with I don't want porn in my marriage, if I had to be frank with you, right? Like if when I do get married, like I want, if and when, like I don't want that shit. Like I want to be devoted to the person who I have grown to love. And, you know, like that's part of the vision. It's like I want to be a man who doesn't look at porn anymore, because it leads to a comparison, objectification of woman. It's never enough. It always leads me down to a bad place. And so I got a consultation to stop it, you know, like, because it's a horrible addiction, man. And I'm glad that I'm able to just be able to talk about this now, and write about it and stuff like that. But but you know, like that's the thing, like who do I want to become, like, and what, you know, and you know, when it comes to a Christian, like Christianity, like what kind of man of faith do I want to be? Because the one thing I could tell you, Shelby, is like stories of God being in control. When I was 24 years old, somebody gave me $9,000 to pay off my student loans.
When you were how old?
24.
Okay.
And
was this like a loan or a gift?
This was a gift. A guy I went to church with, Brian Whitmore, he in 2014, so I was 23, but in 2014 I was working 7 days a week for 9 months, man. Like I was just kind of like hanging away, and he and I paid for one of my good friends to come with me to Puerto Rico, and I was like, don't get the plane ticket, but don't worry about anything else, like I got it. And so like he saw that and he's like, you're really touched by it, and he just wanted to help me out. And he, you know, to this day I don't have any student loans, and but it's, you know, he yeah, I mean, that was one of my things about you know, like, is like I didn't want didn't want to have student loans because it just reminded me of Liberty University, and Liberty, like I got kicked out of and banned from that university because of my condition.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that plays into the insecurity of like, well, if educational institution kicked me out, like what makes me good enough and stuff like that. And this is where Christianity is coming into play, where it's like, no, but you are good enough, and you do have worth, and you are loved, and you are forgiven, you are, you know, on the list goes on, and you're validated as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I look at that, like the low point and then the high point. I mean, I when I received, I cried. I cried. And I was overwhelmed. I was like, why would you do that? And that's what compassion is, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so but then, like, man, I get angry too, so it's on the spectrum of like these stories of compassion and complete mercy and like, and then like this, like anger, like, I don't want to get hit in the face again. Like, I don't want to, I got this tooth right here that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Did I share last time why?
I don't think you told us that whole story.
Yeah. So, last summer I was hospitalized. And when I was hospitalized the place is called Central State. It's a mental hospital in Virginia. And basically what happened is that I was with a friend, a quick friend that I made, a fast friend.
A
And
fast friend, did you say?
yeah, because I like, basically we were playing Pokemon Go. It all started with Pokemon Go, and I met him playing Pokemon Go, and he was bipolar, I was bipolar. We shared a bond. We were telling stories and whatnot, and then he's like, "Hey, do you want some weed?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll just try it." So I tried it, and I got high with him. And he was like, "All right, well, can we take your car to Virginia to pick up my girlfriend?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so he took my car, and yeah, so we got his girlfriend. It's super sketchy situation, crack house, and um, basically they drove off. They want to spend time with each other, and so I got dropped off at a hotel. And when I was in a hotel, when you're manic, you have like high libido, and so for me, I went into there and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sell myself. And so uh, I go inside to the receptionist. I'm like, hey, do you know a woman who would buy me for sex? And and she's like, what in the world are you talking about? I was like, like, I'm. Do you know any woman who buys me for sex? Like, that's and so she's like, nope. And there's the entrance, like there's the exit, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So I walked away, and then I was like, okay, I'm in a bad situation. I know that I'm manic, and I need some help. So um, I went back inside and I said, hey, can you call 911 because I'm in a manic episode and I have bipolar. And so she's like, yeah, I can do that. So cops come, they do this welfare check, like, just, are you okay? And I was like, no, like I'm manic right now. And so I got to the ER, and I was like super, super horny, and Basically, I was in the ER, and like they felt like I needed help, so they sent me to a mental hospital.
Hmm.
And it was there that I went to Central State, and Central State is known for having a prison population for the mentally ill. Um, so that was cool. I was stuck with a whole bunch of criminals, and um,
So
I got
it's like mentally ill criminals there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was like a sheep to the wolves, basically.
Hmm.
Like I got in there, and one, it was super manic. So, and then two, um, like I had no idea what I was up against, and I got uppercut to the head by a guy. I was bending over. He like punched me right in the head. And then
Like for
like
no reason.
before, yeah, no reason. And I touched the shoulder of this one guy, just like be like, "Hey man, hey Nehemiah, you know."
Hmm.
And I touched him, um, and he's like, "Don't touch me!" And then whoopah, just right square in the mouth, man. Just, he hit me, and it was it was crazy. And I spat out a piece of my tooth, and I was like, "Oh damn!" Like he actually damaged my mouth, and so I had a chip tooth, um, and it was gonna cost like a whole bunch of money to get it repaired, and so I decided to take the tooth out,
Hmm.
extract it. But the whole situation was craziness, and definitely not like what it was like the last two visits that I had here in New Haven.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then it was very hostile. It was a very
Hmm.
hostile environment, and it was mismanaged and not controlled. But the worst thing was is that I put myself in, or I got myself into a secluded chamber,
Hmm.
um, and I just cried. I cried like a little kid. I'm just in the seclusion tank, and it's this white room, white walls and everything, and I just laid fetal position in the corner and just started crying. Um, it just I had yeah I hated the fact that like there was people surrounding me getting into the room, so there was like a group of people who would like form this like bubble, and they were gently pushing me towards the door. And
Hmm.
then I had this, it's very traumatic. Like
Hmm.
I had this guy who's Nurse Demery who was on my back, and um, he locked himself onto me, and he's like, "It's going to be okay, Barnaby. It's going to be okay." I'm like, "How the hell do you say that it's going to be okay when you're on my back, dude?" So, but he pushes me in slowly, and I just um, yeah, I found myself in the corner of the white room, and like this is something that encouraged my PTSD, um, and yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like um, I don't know how to make this anymore. Um, like there's so many things that are constantly going over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, that I mean, like I feel like
How long were you in that room for?
half an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it was like, what's that?
probably the longest half an hour you've ever experienced.
Yeah. I mean, it was horrible. I think the worst thing that happened, the reason why that I really got affected was because I cried. I just cried with this deep groan, and yeah, I just I never, I don't know. I gotta learn how to accept,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, just to accept the the like these things,
Mm-hmm.
and like this is a part of having a condition, is that you're going to be placed in situations that you're not going to feel comfortable in, and like it's a part of my story,
Mm-hmm.
like, but again, like I want this to be a story of hope and not of despair.
Mm-hmm. Um, I know you've been through like a lot of those hospitals, like hospitalized and other things like that, but when you're in them, like in that scenario, do you like believe that you're going to be okay? Like when you're in there, like do you kind of like have that sort of faith where you know that everything's going to work out, or are you like really scared and you don't know what's going to like and you're not sure?
um
Or does it depend? Probably.
I mean, so like, because let's see, I've been in the last year, I've been in one, two, three, five. I've been in five hospitals,
Okay.
and um, one second, I'm gonna plug in my computer.
Yeah, I just did the same thing.
All right, we're good. Yeah, so that's a great question, Shelby. Like, is there you just is there hope? Right. Basically, did I do it, or what do I think during those? Because I got five hospital visits in this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, yeah, and the um, God, um, all right, this is good. Um, yeah, it's almost as if like when I'm not even thinking, I'm not future planning at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I'm like literally taking it one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could form a connection with people, then I try to do that. Um, yeah,
So you're like really in the moment. You're not really even thinking about like I guess so even when you're in the hospitals, you're not thinking about getting out. You're just like
yeah. I mean, I mean, so like definitely this point, like this last hospital visit. I mean, I was like, come on, guys, like when am I getting out? Like what's? And I had hope of like getting out and stuff like that. Um, but there is something like this. This is the thing that got me, hit me really hard, and it was how sick I was,
mm-hmm.
and realizing how sick I was, and knowing that these people who are around me don't know how sick they are.
You mean the other people in
You're
there.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was the strangest thing because like for me, I just was like, man, like I don't know where to begin,
Mm-hmm.
um, because like
Like I guess so like you're talking like you've like grown an awareness over everything that you're dealing with, and you've kind of realized more and more, and you think that the other people aren't really aware of what they're actually dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
And that happened this time.
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, it's tough because I mean like all right, so when I was hospital number 1 in Raleigh in 2019, I signed a 3-day paper, so basically I was in and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew I was going to get out, because I was voluntary, and they let me in, and then they let me out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I knew exactly what was happening, or I knew, but the thing is like I wasn't ready to get out. Like I was manic,
Mm-hmm.
like, and my like every time I take the the authority over my lithium and not take as much as I need, or you know, um, yeah, it just bad news happens. Like
Mm-hmm.
just bad. There's going to be a headline the next day. Barnaby, in trouble again,
Yeah.
and 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 because he didn't take the medicine, and there's this more acceptance of of having bipolar and stuff like that, and with the Central State, man, like that was a horrible, that that was probably like this is what happens when you like, this is like I've definitely been discriminated against,
Mm-hmm.
and been looked down to as like doesn't um not worthy to be a part of society, is my perspective, because when I was in Central State, I was making the phone calls and everything, and um, uh, I was um, just trying. I didn't even know how I got released because they wanted me to be there.
Like forever.
Yeah, it was it was bad.
How long were you there for in total?
About a week and a half, 2 weeks.
That's quite a while.
Yeah, yeah, and it was one of my friends. He's a mentor, and a good friend. He's the one who advocated for me to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he stepped in as like the authority to to help get me out. But it was a horrible episode. Like that was probably,
And you knew that they wanted to keep you in there forever.
yeah, because the thing is like they were throwing Thorazine at me. Like if I didn't have Chris to come by my aid, I don't know how I would have gotten on there.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have, because they court ordered me. They said, you can't come out.
That's
So
scary.
yeah, yeah, they yeah, it was very scary, and like you can't even properly defend yourself because you're on this medication. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, like I went away. I walked away from it. I took my medication. I got back stable again, and then I met this. So I decided, to not take my medication again, and that's when I get in trouble. Is when I stop taking my medication, um, and so I was hospitalized. Um, and I forget. Oh, my doctor. So I talked to my doctor, and I'm like mile a minute texting her, and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna call the police on you, and so they can escort you to the hospital. So, that's what happened. I was to be manic, man, is like, yeah, that's what I say. Like, my fade, man, it's super real. Cause like, I thank God that I'm alive today, Shelby. Like,
Hmm.
it really, like, it's only by grace, and by grace of, having the self-awareness not to be popping off like, it's the system, and this is what happens, Shelby, when you give people medicine, they don't know what they're talking about, I'm blah, 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 instead of,
Hmm.
like, I could be spouting out and just, like, start blaming people and start blaming the doctors and start blaming the situation or people around me. Like, they made me angry, and that sparked my mania, but I'm okay, and it's just like, what the heck? Like, to even do that though is foolishness, because like, the doctors are there to do a job. They're there to help with medication that is known to help people with psychological conditions like mine.
Hmm.
It's already been, a fact that I have a psychological condition, um, and like I really appreciate the healthcare field and stuff like that. Could they do better? Yeah, a lot of people could do better, buddy. Like
Yeah,
everybody can do
anybody can.
better. Yeah, it's just like, oh my gosh, could you do better? Yeah, of course. But like, for me, with, and I got this book here. I probably should read it again. Called Mood Swing, and it's the eminent psychiatrist who pioneered the use of lithium in America reveals a revolutionary new way to prevent depression. And but these guys are intelligent, like, people. They're humans, and at the same time, they know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
And I may not appreciate the fact that I'm on medication, but it seems like a lot of people are on medication.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot, well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are. I mean, not just for, I mean, for a lot, like, yeah, for a lot of things.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm thankful, um, and I'm eternally grateful, uh, for the last two hospitalizations that I had, and I could walk away with it, because here's the craziest thing. So the hospitalization for um, my first hospitalization, man, I was out on the porch, and it was just a madman, like 4 o'clock in the morning, banging drums. Um, I'm lighting a pot, pot, a crock pot, a crock pot, and I'm lighting, I'm putting wood in there and lighting it on fire, and it like, just nonsensical, super dangerous, especially for a house. And I like, I needed help, and my roommates, they in their best interest, they called 911, and I needed to, because if you looked at the situation, if I was out of body and I'm like standing on the lawn, I'm like, I'd probably be like, holy shit, what is this? What am I doing right now? Like,
Hmm.
sensible stuff and stuff like that. And um, so it was appropriate again to go back to the hospital a second time, in the last couple of weeks, because um, I was I was not myself, man.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't myself, and like that night before I got to the hospital, I, I, I like that night I was walking, um, yeah, I was walking to the hospital, or that week, like I was just saying, like I'm manic, and I don't know what triggered that. I mean, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is that like I long for this super high that I get from Mania, but then I'm in the depressive state, and so I'm like I just want to be. I honestly like I want to just I want to be where I'm at right now. Just be super keel, like even keel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe a little bit more energy, but like
Like, so right now you feel good, pretty good, or
yeah,
stable maybe.
I feel pretty good, man. Like I need to start running again. Um, I used to like this time last year was 180 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm like 117. So I'm like I'm overweight, and I like like given that what I went through, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Do you
But
find that the exercise helps too mentally?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, yeah, I do a lot of running, like cardio stuff. I find that helps a lot getting the blood moving.
yeah. Probably should do it after this call. The division um, sheet, and then yeah, going running. But um, yeah, I mean the hospital visits, like I'm definitely in the moment when um, I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just meeting people and connecting with people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, that's yeah, I mean, I think that's good too, right? You get, I don't know, what else are you gonna do while you're there? Make the
no, I
best of
mean
it, or just think of the worst, right?
yeah, I think the worst. Like that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean so I mean the I never would want anyone to go through the hospital. I don't, you know, it's I I don't like it.
Yeah,
Oh, like
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, but I could definitely see why I needed it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I've been stable. I've been stable and um before without going to hospital stuff like that. Um, yeah, but we'll see, man. I never. I'm. This is 15, so I've been in 15 different hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm almost like tempted to just follow unemployment, not unemployment, but disability, and like start you living like more even keel life,
Mm-hmm. That might be good.
It might be. I mean, I'm not the young person I was um, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, or like a couple years ago. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Because disability would be you wouldn't have to work, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So
Would also give you a lot of time to just, you know, I mean, do whatever you want for yourself as well. Continue to
yeah,
learn and grow, and
yeah. So I don't know, but I'm severely tired. I
yeah. You want to call it one for today?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's
Okay.
do that, man.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope this is good.
Yeah, it's man, everything's good. Just the fact that you're on here is good. I mean, even if even if it was only 10 minutes long, it's, there's going to be so many other people out there that that they'll get help from this and be able to relate and see. And I think it's, everything's useful and helpful. And yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I would say this, medication is important. And if you struggle with bipolar disorder, please just take the medication.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or if you struggle with any psychological disorder, like, just take the medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah. There you have it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll do another one and kind of, if you want to, later, and we'll touch up on some of the last things if some stuff comes up. But if not, yeah, man, like, thanks again for coming on and doing this. And I know, you're going through stuff still, right? And like, not many people are willing to do a podcast episode a couple days after they get out of the hospital, right? So
Yeah.
I think all that's really cool, and I appreciate it. And it's very, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. And yeah, I mean, I definitely, yeah, give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to keep telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we started off good, and like I just want to better, I guess, share about, like, teenage, and then but you're right. Just coming out of mental hospital, yeah, this is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a huge thing, man. I don't think I would be willing to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, let's continue the story. Give it a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once it gets settled, maybe July.
Perfect. Yeah, well, good luck, and you got to find a new place still. So good luck with all that. You got a lot going on in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah.
Thanks,
awesome,
man. Okay, well, yeah, we'll be in touch, and then we'll just see where it goes.
Cool. All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, thanks again, man.
All right, thanks.